joke was that our state flower is mildew because it rains so much.
And so you might just accidentally push yourself in the wrong direction a little bit, and then it's like, I'm going to pay for it the next day.
There's no guarantee whether we'll do it.
But I was just like chilling. I look over and I was like, oh, hello, vagina.
Keep that compass pointed, true north to what you believe.
Definitely don't go to school.
Go to rock and roll school.
That's kind of crazy, but
I don't remember this.
Me neither.
But when it comes to write lyrics, I really, it's a pain in the ass for me,
Wow, this is what I want to listen to during my whole life.
Did you really bring that up? That was a private conversation.
I hope people keep thinking that I'm really relaxed while I'm playing and do not realize when I'm playing the difficult parts of the song.
Those things are always interesting just because I'm so scattered.
Polka metal can be interesting.
Polka metal, yeah. I like it.
It's a microphone. What am I supposed to do with this? I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I know who to sue.
Yeah.
It was that being told I can't and I shouldn't made me want to do it.
And I'm really hopeful that that's not possible.
I want to be in their presence, so I conduct my life in a way that I hope that they want to be in my presence as well.
What if we can't make it out before the freeze?
We don't run from our troubles.
You heard it, right?
We don't get a lot of people out here.
That's what makes it so special.
Nothing pushes us out of our home.
I'm worried about Dad.
Renee says she heard a gunshot.
We've got a blood trail.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts, based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me on this Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. The 11th of June, 2021. And as always, I have a few housekeeping things to go over. Starting next week, I do have more live streams scheduled. No surprise there. I have things scheduled for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and some of those might actually double up. There's a couple of confirmations I'm waiting for, so that I might go from 3 to actually 5 or 6 live streams next week. So if you'd like to know what's going on, you can follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram. That's where I post everything first, and then some of that information migrates over to other social media platforms, but at least half of it's really exclusive to Instagram. That's my platform of choice. I find it to be more content-oriented than anything else. So I do want to mention, though, that my guest on Monday has been someone I've been trying to connect with for a while, which is Dr. Stephen Pennington from Tufts University, a professor of musicology. And also, as it being Pride Month, I wanted to bring him on and kind of talk about his particular journey into the world of education and music. So that's going to be at noon Pacific Daylight Time on Monday, 3 p.m. over at Tufts University. So that's going to be something really special and unique. And again, I do have other streams scheduled. And just so that everybody knows, I will not be doing a stream on the 16th of June, which is Wednesday next week, because that is my birthday. So I will be doing, unfortunately, other work, but I'm going to take that day off from the live stream world. But again, I will be back on Thursday, the 17th. And I already have things scheduled for the 21st and 22nd the following week. So there's just a lot of things coming up. This is going to be live stream number 101 today, which I'm extremely pleased to and grateful to be able to say for this year, for 2021. We hit number 100 yesterday, and it's been number, 206 overall since May 22nd, 2020. And as I've been saying all along, I'm just extremely appreciative and grateful to every guest that's taken the time, from all the film and television folks, bands from all over the world, and professional dancers, ballet, opera, theater, musical theater. There's been such an amazing amount of guests that I've had the pleasure to introduce and interview and talk to and introduce with a lot of folks out there that are perhaps new to them and their work. And as we're in this transitionary period of time now, I will continue doing live streams as often as I can, but just kind of know that, the live streams were here during the pandemic, and then everything for live events was down here. Now I was going to start doing this a bit. So I'm looking forward, obviously, to getting back to being in a photo pit and writing reviews and doing interviews in person, but I will also be doing the virtual world as well. So I'll have that hybrid going on. At least that's the plan, at least for the summer and just part of the fall, as I've seen press release after press release coming in about what's coming up. And Also, like with the Tribeca Festival right now, it's going on in New York. I'm covering the virtual part of that, so they're doing a hybrid model. And so it just kind of makes sense that I would be doing a hybrid model as well. All right, so let's get to things. My guest today has been entertaining audiences for years in film and television. Her film, Hunter x Hunter, is coming out on DVD and Blu-ray on June 22nd for all you collectors out there. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Camille Sullivan.
Hi.
Hi, Camille. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate you joining me, and we can talk about the film and also talk about your career, because you've had quite a lengthy career in film and television. So I'm really excited to talk about all of it.
Okay, cool.
All right. So does it ever feel a little strange when you're doing press for something that maybe you filmed like a year ago or a while ago?
Yeah, it definitely does. Like when we were doing a whole bunch of interviews in a row when the film was just released online, I had to get out my own script and kind of look over it again and be like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? And like, remind myself. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm finding the same thing. Like, even like with some of the bands, they recorded something at the end of 2019, and then the pandemic hit. So then now they're promoting it, a year later. They're like, well, I remember we were doing this, and no, were we in the studio then or what day? And they get everything mixed up. And but I got to tell you, for myself, being someone that loves the thriller and horror genre, that I saw this preview from IFC Bin that I remember and think, oh, I love that kind of man against nature and the wolf and the whole thing. And that's what I truly thought it was going to be. And then, without spoiling anything for anyone out there that hasn't seen it, it turns into something else, which is really awesome. When you read the script, what was your impression as you were going through from the beginning scenes to that ending scene that people are talking about?
Well, I kind of had the same reaction through a lot of reading this script, which is like I kind of couldn't believe it came my way. You know what I mean? Like for the first, however many 10, 15 pages, my character barely talks, but she's heavy, like carrying all this heavy stuff, like running, and it's like super fun stuff. So I kept reading, and then it gets and then there's lots more action like that, which I love. But then there's also, it gets really deep and like emotionally deep. And then you get to the end and I was just like, holy shit, somebody wants me to do this? Really? And I was, scared. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll try. But I was scared. Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine for being the actor that played that part and reading it and then seeing like, how's this going to work as we go along shooting it. And correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded like you didn't have a lot of prep time for this before you guys started shooting the principal photography for it.
No, not at all. I think I found out a week before, like a couple days later, I was on a flight to Manitoba, and then, we just pretty much started shooting.
Wow. And do you remember, like, how long was the shoot? How long were you out there shooting this film?
I don't remember exactly, but I want to say 4 weeks, something like that.
Okay, and was that also, I think I read that it was at different national park locations?
Yeah, it was all on location in national parks, which was gorgeous. And then also like really allowed everything to feel and be very real. Like, when I just, so many scenes where I'm just like running or carrying heavy stuff, I'm just doing it. You know what I mean? No acting necessary. It's hard.
So they didn't have like foam logs or anything?
No, I think they asked me one day, I was carrying something, you couldn't see it. They're like, do you want it heavy or do you want it light? I'm like, I want it heavy. I don't want to have to be like pretending to huff and puff. It's so hard.
Okay, so that also means then it must have been pretty cold there on location?
It was, yeah. It was cold, but I was dressed for it, which, in a rare twist of fate in my business, I actually was dressed properly. So it was fine. And there was so much action that I really didn't mind it. Like, I mean, I'm from Canada, so, the cold isn't, I didn't get there and was like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? It was okay.
Okay, well, yeah, that helps that the nature of your character in the film, that there's action, you're in the woods anyway as a family, so it's like, well, I have to be dressed appropriately. So yeah, that was a nice stroke of fate.
Yeah, I was so glad. It's like the best wardrobe I've ever worn.
Nice. And Carlos, I see that you're joining us through YouTube. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully you get a chance to see the film if you haven't already, Hunter x Hunter. And So did you guys shoot? I know a lot of times films aren't shot in sequence whatsoever, but was this one shot in sequence?
Yeah, for the most part, it was. Sean Linden, our director, really wanted to make the effort to shoot as much of it in sequence as possible, and we really did. So the last few days was shooting the ending, and it was really like. Again, without spoiling it for people out there, if you have even like an inkling of interest in the thriller outdoor with some horror thrown into it as well, you're going to enjoy this film. I've had a chance, again, the pleasure to review a ton of films over the last year during the pandemic and being a fan of this genre, it shocked me in a really good way. It surprised me. I wasn't expecting that. I'm like, just like you said, holy shit. Not to knock on other films that I've seen, but some of them from that genre haven't quite been up to snuff or been a little disappointing, and this one is not. So if you watch the trailer and just understand, if you look at the poster art, it'll kind of give you a clue to what's going on, but you won't understand that until you see the whole film. Then you look at it again. Oh, wait a minute. There's the wolf. There's your character. There's these kind of superimposed things that one gets bigger after the other, and it's kind of like, oh, so it actually kind of teased it without giving it away. Yeah. Yeah, it was a little bit of a switcheroo there, kind of, in some of the way it was, some of the trailers to give you the idea that it's a man against nature, and it is in a way, but it's really so much more than that.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And hi, Queen, good to see you again too. And Queen's joining us from YouTube, and I think it's from YouTube. And Queen, this is not like a straightforward horror film at all to me. There's definitely elements of it. Don't get me wrong, especially towards the end of the film, but. As Camille just said, it is a man against nature, family against nature piece, and then it starts to kind of unravel in many different ways without giving it away. So if you're looking for a straightforward like slasher kind of thing, that's not this film. But if you want to get shocked and kind of surprised by the end of it with some gore, yes, there's that element to it. And so Queen, thank you for that question. Camille, have you had a chance to? So how many times have you seen the film? One time, like when it was fully done, or?
I think I've seen it twice. I watched it once when it was almost completed, and then, or maybe when it was just done, and then once we did a cast and crew. It was over Zoom because of the pandemic, but we did a screening that way. So then I watched it then. Soon I'll have to go through and try to pick out a scene for my demo, I guess, which will be horrible. I really enjoyed the movie. I just don't love watching myself over and over and over again.
Got it. Okay. I've had the chance again to speak to a lot of directors, producers, screenwriters, actors during the last 15 months or so virtually, and almost all of them will say that what they started with and what they ended with were not exactly the same thing. It could be something minor that changed. Was there anything during the course of the filming that for you was kind of the same thing? Like you thought I was going to do this, or maybe there was a scene that you guys ended up cutting out, or something that you kind of liked, or something that was the more challenging you thought it was going to be?
There were a few times, and Sean was really great about this, where he really was open to hearing my opinion and taking my thoughts into consideration. So we shifted a little bit of the way Anne reacted to some of the situations. Just making her she was on very much a journey from being meek to sort of realizing herself to wherever she goes, and the meekness was there, and he helped me find it, and it was certainly important. But then I think we helped to change along the way she grew a little bit, so that I don't know. I don't know. I'm not explaining this well, but because. He listened to me, so as a woman, I was able to say, no, I don't think this is right here. I'd rather do it this way, and he was very, very much open to that. So one of the scenes changed a little bit, and then some other ones were just tweaked, but it was all and it was part of the journey of finding it. Like each scene, because we shot in sequence, fed on each other, so that I really felt like I had a stronger sense at the end of who this character was than definitely going in. And each scene informed each other's scene, which I think was really cool.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's really nice that the director and writer Sean was able to listen to your ideas and actually implement them, and not just kind of like, oh, that's nice, and then go to whatever he wanted to do.
Exactly. But to try it my way, and we'll see.
And I was just talking with a couple other folks recently about the representation and about female representation. So like if you're feeling like this is how a character would be react to from a female point of view, then that really should be the case, because that's what the character is, versus a male point of view throwing putting their spin on it.
Yeah, exactly. And he's a very good writer, so he wrote this amazing female character, which is very rare actually to come across. But then even better that he allowed me to shape it with my experience. It was really creatively satisfying for me.
Yeah, that's good to know. And yeah, and I can only picture too, just like you were saying, that because for the most part it was shot in sequence, that you could see your character developing and knowing like what that finale was going to be and how your character is really going to, I think, as you mentioned before in other interviews, about staring into the abyss. That Anne gets to this point of just like it's staring right back at her, and all is lost pretty much at that point.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and again, for people out there like Queen and Carlos, yeah, watch the trailer, check out the film. It is available digitally if you're a digital person. If I know a lot of the horror and thriller community love tangible things, so that the fact that it's coming out on DVD and Blu-ray on the 22nd is huge, because they want to stick it into their library of films. And I cover Crypticon Seattle down here, which has been a long-running horror convention. I always have to say horror because at one time I said horror, like I normally.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah, and someone's like, "What kind of convention do you cover?" And I'm like, "Oh, a horror convention."
Sure it was.
That would be an interesting thing if it was a different type of convention. I don't know how that would work, but. Camille, I'm just curious, have you ever done a convention appearance at all? Because I know you have other films in your background that would really kind of lend itself to that kind of thing.
No, I never have. I've heard a lot about them. I've heard it can be an overwhelming but cool experience, but no, I've never done one.
Okay, yeah. Again, when I was looking through your filmography and everything else, that it's at least from my point of view, it's interesting for the talent to be able to meet their fans face to face, and either it's just through a Q&A or actually at their table when they're selling photos and that kind of thing, or selling selfies, that kind of thing. I can understand too, because I've interviewed some guests at their table when fans are coming up to them. Yeah. And yeah, some of the fans are very intense. They don't mean to be, but they're just so into that person or their film work. It's kind of like, okay, if you have a whole day of that or a whole weekend of that, that can be
a lot of people too. I think a lot of energy at once,
Yeah, absolutely. I had the pleasure of interviewing Dee Wallace a few times from E.T. and The Howling and all these other films. And she's so nice and gracious with her fans, but at the same time, you could see that look on her face like, okay, can I get a break? For a little while? Is it lunchtime? I'm gone for an hour.
Just want to be quiet for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why she'd always tell me, Mark, I want to do your interview like right at the beginning before we actually open, before it becomes the floodgates and everything. I totally get that. But I do think it was something that I think you'd have a lot of fans that would be coming up to you that want to pick your brain about Hunter x Hunter and a lot of the other films you've done. So.
Oh yeah, I'm certainly open to it. Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. Crypticon Seattle folks, there are Days of the Dead, all the other conventions here in the U.S. I know there's some in Canada as well. That especially as things are opening up now, those things are getting rescheduled. So potentially you can reach out to Camille and see if you can work out something, because it'd be great for yourself and also for the fan base for sure. And I'm curious about what got you started in film and television from the get-go? Is it like since you were a little kid, or did it develop later?
No, I went to UBC, University of British Columbia, and I started taking theater there, acting. And once I got out, I sort of pursued theater, but I also pursued TV and film, and TV and film just kind of took off for me sort of right away. So that's what took my focus. And I think I'm also just better suited to it. Like, I've always loved watching movies. I didn't realize I wanted to be an actor when I was younger, but I watched a shit ton of movies. So, I always loved it and had a great respect for it. And I think it just took me a while to kind of even admit to myself that it was something I could pursue that wasn't like a fairy tale or whatever. Okay.
And as you mentioned that, you're studying theater, and then the film and TV thing just started to kind of take off for you. Do you ever miss the stage?
I do. It's been so long. I wonder honestly if I'd be scared now. Like, I think I definitely would be scared. Would I be too scared to do it? I don't know. But I do, because it's fun too. Like, the things I love about film and TV are so different than the things I love about being on stage, but they're both, incredible.
Sure. Yeah. it reminds me again. I'm a musician, so I know like what's like to record in the studio and also record, playing in front of people. It's two different things, but they're equally awesome.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Like on film, what's great is like you only have to do it once. You only have to get it once. So if you make a mistake and it turns out that mistake is great, then you've got it. You never have to try to duplicate it again, which is wonderful in the one way, and also terrible when you go home at night and you're like, fuck, I wish I'd done that differently. And then stage, you're always kind of getting a second chance, but you're also the repetitiveness of it is difficult. That was hard to say.
Yeah, no, again, I'm so fortunate I've been able to cover a lot of local theater here, and some of that's starting to come back. And the touring Broadway musicals in North America, that Phantom of the Opera, Hamilton, all that stuff, I get to cover those when they come to Seattle. Oh. And so, yeah, and there's all these kind of pluses, yeah, and pros and cons of both types of things. And again, talking to a lot of film folks like yourself and television folks, it's just interesting hearing that. And I'm just a big nerd for anything of entertainment, pretty much. I think sometimes it actually scares some of the guests that I might know some kind of detail about something. They're like, how the fuck does he know that? It's not any... I've watched your episode. When I say I've watched it, 20 times, I actually have watched something 20 times. I'm not exaggerating. It's kind of scary and kind of sad too. But you, like I mentioned, you have had a long career in television and film, playing all kinds of different roles, from small roles to leading roles. And I know you've mentioned, that like you just kind of mentioned right now, that there's different things between film and television that you like. And I know you've just done some film too, past Hunter x Hunter. And so can you kind of bring us up to speed? What have you been working on recently?
So most recently, within the last couple of weeks, I've been working on, you know what? I'm just now asking myself, am I allowed to say this or not? Actually, okay, I've been working on a movie for Netflix, but I'm not going to, I signed an NDA. I can't remember if this was on it, so I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's
no problem.
Fun family movie for Netflix. Really different than anything I've done because my character's so sweet and so kind, and it's a kind of an uplifting, lovely story. So unlike anything I ever do, which is always like dark, dark, dark. So that's a nice change for that. And then before the pre-pandemic, I'd done a couple. What was I working on? I can't even remember. I did Hunter x Hunter. I did a movie called Kingsway a couple years ago that I'm very proud of. It's a dark comedy. Directed by Bruce Sweeney, which is out there in the world if anyone's interested in a dark comedy about suicide. It's very funny and touching. And I did a movie called The Birdwatcher, which was lovely, mother-daughter themed, with the incredible Gabrielle Rose, and I'm very proud of that one as well. I just kind of do what's there, like roles fall into my lap, and it's sort of random.
That actually sounds kind of good, that if you're getting roles that are random, that you're not getting typecast into something. And the fact that you mentioned that you have a Netflix coming up with a role that's really kind of maybe that you're not necessarily known for, that's great that they're giving that range.
Yeah, no, I am pretty excited about it, especially because I like digging in and doing dark material. I really love it. But at the same time, I don't want to do only that and, be repeating myself. And I don't want terrible things to always be happening to me and my children,
Yeah, you'd like to, survive unscathed at the end of a film.
Do something fun, have a romance maybe.
Yeah, have like a candlelit dinner somewhere in the scene, or not have a bunch of dirt on you or running away from something.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. I have a random mind. I'm kind of curious, over the course of your career, has there been a project of any kind that's come your way that for whatever reason, scheduling or something that you couldn't do that you kind of regretted, that you missed out on?
Yeah, there is one. Again, I'm not going to say what it was, but it was really disappointing. It came up at the same time as another offer for a project, which sounded really good on its face, but then turned out to be not great. And they were very, they held me so they wouldn't allow me to do other work. So I lost this one great job, and then I lost 2 or 3 more jobs during the course of doing this crappy ass job. And it was my fault because I didn't know enough about the project, and I said yes to it, and I was kind of going based on the money, which is always a mistake. So that was like a hard lesson. Like, gotta lead with, what do you love to do? Who do you want to work with? You can't make decisions for me on like a superficial money or like achievement level, because that never works out for me.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of fans, when they're watching, they don't understand what actors go through when it could be a contract that was signed. So then you're held to that, and if something else comes along, you may not be able to do both because contractually you said you're going to do this one, and you're kind of stuck. And they might be thinking, well, how come she's not doing that one? I heard she got offered this thing, and it's like, well, we don't know. We're not you.
Yeah, and it's kind of heartbreaking when you're stuck and something good comes along, and you're like, oh no, if only. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, in some ways, at least on my end of things, it becomes something where I have to say, well, if I already have something booked, I'm not going to bump that for this other thing because that's not right. Even though there's a part of me, honestly, would be like, damn, maybe I should say yes to this other thing. But then I have, no, that's Mark, that's not the right thing to do. You already booked this person, this is who you booked, and stick with it. But there's always that kind of, turning the head of like, wait a minute.
Like, oh, but wait a minute, who's across the room there?
Yeah. I think it's part of human nature or something, just to kind of at least consider it a little bit and like, oh no, I'll come back to center.
Yeah, exactly.
When you look through your career, what are some of the things just off the top of your head that really stand out, either like people you work with or just moments on a particular film or TV set that you're like, man, I'm so happy and so grateful that I got to be a part of some of those projects?
I did a limited series called The Disappearance for CTV. I think it was in 2018. I think it came out ish. It was really a wonderful experience. It was with Peter Coyote and Aidan Young and Joanne Kelly, and they were all fantastic actors. And they're all wonderful. But it was really especially fun for me to work with Peter Coyote because he's such an incredible man as well. Like, he's such an interesting and grounded and sweet man. And so it was really wonderful to get to know him as a person and laugh, because he's really funny. So it was just like it was this dark story. It's not a spoiler because it happens in the first episode. My child goes missing. So it's quite a dark series. And especially for my character, it's very sad. But we laughed so much because we had such a good time doing it. And also the creative partners on it were so wonderful. And it was such an incredible, just creative and bonding experience. And we shot it in Montreal, which is amazing. And so it was just like all around it, really one of my favorite things that I've worked on.
Well, it sounds amazing. So hopefully everybody out there get a chance to check that out, including myself, because that's something I haven't seen. And isn't it awesome when you can look back on something where the product and the experience were both great, so they all comes together and there's like nothing negative about it?
Yeah, totally. And it's not always the case. If one of them's good, then at least you've got something. At least one has to be good. It has to be fun or has to turn out good.
Yeah, and clearly you don't want it when neither of them work out that way.
You just take it off your resume, you pretend it never happened.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Again, for me, being able to do these virtual interviews, it started when a band from LA called Alice asked me to do it, and they're amazing people, amazing musicians, and there's some bands out there that I love, but I know if they asked me to do something like that where I was actually working with them, I'd be like, I don't know, because I know you guys are freaking crazy, and I don't know if I can be a part of that. But when they offered, I was like, I know this is like, they're such primo people, and it was just the best experience for me. And had they not said, Mark, would you like to do this? I don't think you and I would be here right now doing this, because it was the furthest thing from my mind.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. And so just like when you're talking about working on that and getting to know people, I got to know them as people beyond them as musicians and all this kind of stuff. And they've been around for a long time. That I totally understand from that aspect what it's like when everything clicks and works together and you feel like you're part of that community and you can basically have friends, moving on from what you just did.
Yeah, that's really the best case scenario, when you have the connection on and off screen, and just because it's all about connection, really, when you're working with people you respect and who respect you. And like, that's as good as it gets.
Absolutely. And I think also I'm just curious with people that are watching this, and if they watch Hunter x Hunter either on DVD, Blu-ray, or if they just watch it on digital tonight, actors always talk about choices that they make. and the other actors will say, "Oh, that's an interesting choice that the actor made in this scene," or something like that. Can you kind of explain just in layman's terms what that means for the Joe Schmoes out here like me?
Yeah, sure. I mean, and hopefully I'm explaining it correctly. This is what I take it to mean. Like the choice of so you have your dialogue, right? You get your dialogue, your scene, and you're doing something in the scene. Say, I want you to do something for me. The way I go about doing it are the choices I make. You know what I mean? Do I take my lines and do I cajole you with them? Do I plead with you? Do I, get angry with you? Those to me are the choices. Like, what point of view is your character coming from, and how do they go about achieving their goals?
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I see that used a lot in reviews, not only for film, but like when I've been covering theater, and they're like, oh, the actor made an interesting choice in this scene. And I'm kind of like, I mean, you're looking at all these other things they could have done, and that sounds like that's kind of the case of that they chose to go this route, and they could have maybe chose to go a different route to convey that particular line during the scene.
Yeah, I think so. And then it might also refer to more other kinds of choices, like the person chose to go and fiddle with these things on the mantle and that thing. You know what I mean? Like, it can also be a physical choice. Anything that the actor brings to it that's not overtly in the script, I think, would be a choice on the part of the actor.
Okay. All right. Cool. I see Queen asked the question about, does Camille have a favorite genre of music?
Of music, I like all kinds of music. I like blues, and I'm not really folk, but I do like Tom Waits. I get into that, but I also like punk rock. My husband for a long time played in a punk rock band, and he's really schooled me in the history of punk rock. So I've got a real taste for that now too. I like anything with a good groove. Really, I like to dance.
Okay. That's cool. And Queen, thank you for that question. I'm also kind of curious then, with your husband having been in a punk band and you like things that groove and you like to dance, did you ever do anything when you were on stage that involved you like singing or like a musical type of thing, or even just like a musical number?
Until very recently, I have been a very terrible singer. I try and I sing, and again, to reference my husband, he said I was tone deaf, but I think he's starting to take that back. Because I'm learning, slowly but surely, I'm learning to carry a tune. So, because I would like to do that. I like to dance. I've never done a musical because my singing is so terrible. But I do like to dance, and I do like physical acting, which is why I like doing, like in Hunter x Hunter, I did all the fighting and stuff was all just me doing it. It was super fun. Not just me. I mean, I got thrown around. But it was really fun. And so, no, I haven't, but I would like to. Like, I don't rule that out. I love when I can learn a skill for something. You know what I mean? That's one of the really fun things about doing certain kind of movies, like just learning to do something new or learning about something you've never heard of.
Yeah, I totally relate to that type of thing when there's a new opportunity. For the longest time, I'd never seen an opera whatsoever, and I kept thinking, well, it's probably the area that I should look into. We've got world-class opera here with the Seattle Opera Company, and I've told the story to other people before, but I kept waiting for them to do a production that I thought, okay, here's the one I can try to get credentialed for, and they had something that was like a ghost story with like scary things, and here's the opera, and it was in the fall, so I'm like, okay. I watched the trailer for like maybe a minute, and I'm like, I'm out. 3 hours of that, I don't think I could take it. And then lo and behold, the next production was a classical one from Italy. I went to that. I couldn't find a single person to go with me. And I ended up really liking it. It was so much just the live environment, the talent, the music, the staging, all the things that come together. And I was so surprised how close it was to seeing a musical. And I just didn't think that way prior to that time, but now I loved it, and then the pandemic hit. So then I was just kind of getting my groove, and
yeah.
But they went digital, and they're going to be going back to in person in October of the fall, is what I just saw in the press. So, yeah, it's just like anytime I can learn something new from people like yourself, I always call that a good day. And I've said that many times. Anything I learn something new, and I've learned some stuff from you already today. So that's great. And since you like doing like on Hunter x Hunter, like you mentioned, you did a lot of the physical stuff. Some of the stunt work was actually you doing that, getting tossed around. is that something you would ever consider doing just strictly as that, and like as like a stunt woman piece on a film?
If I had the skill, 100%. I don't have the skill. Like I have actor skill. So like I can do stunts that are not like too hard. I would like to get better though, and I'm trying to train myself to get stronger and more capable of just doing more things. I mean, my hat's off to stunt people. I don't have the skills even close to what they do. So it would be a disservice, but I'd like to be able to do as much as I can.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like if you have a role that's coming up that's got a lot of physical things that you want to see, well, how much of that can I do before we have to turn it over to the other professional?
Yeah, exactly. Before I'm out of my, oh, sorry, they're testing the fire alarms today. It's only one spot.
No problem.
Cats, though.
I did a live stream with a guest who his office is in a barn, and you could hear this donkey sound from outside. And that's the beauty of doing these things live. You just never know what's going to happen. It's like being on stage or doing a concert that something's going to happen. So fire bell, that's okay.
hopefully that's it.
So I'm kind of curious too, for myself living down here in Seattle, and when I think of our neighbors to the north, I think of a lot of stereotypes of Canadians are nice, and it used to be that you can get really good weed up in Vancouver, and now you get weed everywhere. But when it comes to television and film, I don't really know much about the industry. Are there distinct differences between that and, say, Hollywood and American film and television?
I'd say the Canadian industry is a well-kept secret. But it's like we're so overshadowed because we don't have the same kind of money. Although starting to make breakthroughs with shows like Schitt's Creek and Kim's Convenience is doing really good, and I forget which others, but we have a very good industry here, and I've worked a lot in Canadian television and done some very good work. I did a series called Intelligence quite a while ago that's on Canadian Netflix, and I think it might be on American Netflix as well. Crime show, and it was really good. Like it's just an excellent series by any by any criteria. So we have this thriving industry, but it's just so overshadowed by American programs and movies. So it's hard to keep it going. Like we don't really have a strong Canadian star system. I mean, unless you go to Quebec. And we don't really, like, I don't know. Some people seek out Canadian work in particular, even though it definitely has a unique voice, because I think culturally there are quite a few significant differences between the States and Canada. Even though we're obviously very similar. So there's definitely a unique Canadian voice, but it's kind of screaming into the void right now.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Kim's Convenience. So when you mentioned that show, and let's see, am I back?
Yeah, back.
Okay. But yeah, it kind of got me thinking with you being in Canada and with that show, being Canadian based and all those kind of things, that was like, what else is going on? And even like I know from the music industry side of things that there's a lot of bands up in Canada that I follow, but it's like, it is kind of almost like a mystery from my perspective down in the States of like, what is, the scope of what's going on up in Canada in the entertainment industry?
Yeah, I mean, largely what we watch on TV is the same. Like we're buying American shows, and then we have Canadian shows, but they're more the exception than the rule. And that's not to say I love American shows. I consume and movies. Like I'm not at all downing it. I wish that we could, though. I wish there was a little more room and a little more money being put into our own programming here, just because we do have a voice that's slightly different, and it's nice to have that voice be out there. And it would be nice if we could get it out there to the world a little more, but that all kind of takes money.
Okay, yeah, and I agree with you. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier when it comes to like representation. It could be from just from an actual country. Where do we get this down here to filter down to the States or to any other country, really? And not just have it be, America this, America that kind of a thing. And I'd love to hear more about that. And even like one of my friends, her background's Native Indigenous to Calgary, And I'm kind of like, I just don't think about those things. I don't know if it's just me being a ding dong American or if it's like most of us down here or whatever, but it just kind of made me, again, it makes me think. And then I love it when I kind of learn something new about it. You know, there are so many different viewpoints and stories that need to be told from different areas. And I just haven't thought about it. So it's really kind of cracked my brain open a lot more.
Yeah, well, there's tons of great Canadian stuff out there. I mean, and so, you know, it's out there for those who are looking for it, I think. Yeah, but not, I mean, I certainly like, whatever, I've said enough.
Okay, and before we kind of wrap this up, I've asked every guest this, and instead of asking at the beginning, I wanted to kind of ask it towards the end. How did you fare during the lockdown pandemic time up there? It seems like it may have been a little different than it was here in the States, but did you pick up a new hobby? Did you just go crazy? All of the above?
All of the above, really. I did pretty well because I was okay. You know, I had my couple cats here, and I was teaching myself to juggle, and so I was pretty content there for a while. And then, but then, you know, like everyone, time wore on. I'm like, okay, I'm, you know, starting to get ready to do some other things and go out and see people and work, you know, like I was a little bit disappointed that Hunter x Hunter didn't get to do a festival circuit, you know, which kind of sucked, but whatever. I mean, I was fine. I was good. The pandemic, I'm glad it's ending. And I really feel for everyone who really suffered during it. I didn't really. I was just bored, you know, bored and like a little bit lonely, but I was all right.
Okay, well, I'm kind of in the same boat that there were some silver linings for me, and compared to people that, you know, had tragedy during this time, that lost, you know, people in their family, friends, I didn't have to relate to those things, and I'm extremely grateful that I didn't. And, you know, condolences to those that did have to go through those things. But I'm just like you. It feels like we've got some hope now, and there's you know, the vaccines getting around, and things are slowly opening up depending on where you're at. And you mentioned that you have something that you've done for Netflix that has an NDA on it. Is there anything else coming on the pipeline that you're going to be starting to work on, or what's kind of?
No, now I'm just putting it out there looking for jobs.
Okay. There you go, everybody. So if you're looking for an actress that can juggle, or and is willing to try many of her own stunts to a point, Camille's ready for you.
I am. This is a fantastic sell.
Well, Camille, thank you so much for taking the time today. And again, the film is Hunter x Hunter. It's available on June 22nd on Blu-ray and digital. On DVD, it's available on digital right now if you want to watch it. And I would love to have a chance to possibly connect with you down the road, maybe later this summer, kind of see what you're working on. Maybe that NDA will be released from the Netflix thing.
Yeah, I think shortly. Yeah.
I would love to reconnect. I always like doing follow-ups with my guests and kind of seeing what they're working on and continue to promote their work.
Yeah, great. I would love that.
Awesome. Well, have a great night, great weekend up there. And everyone that's watching, thank you for joining us. And Camille, stay safe for sure.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.